Welcome to Lead Like a Girl, where we are empowering everyday women through our stories. I'm your host, Jessica Smith, and I began this journey by sharing my life story. Now, I've joined forces with my longtime friends, Jamie and Corlin, to keep this party going. We met many years ago as young sales girls in our 20s, driven and quickly rising to the top of our industry. As the years went on, life happened, and we all found ourselves in new companies and completely different industries, still striving for success in it all. Career, family, faith, fun. Now, it wasn't easy, but we never stopped moving. Get ready for our real conversations, inspiring stories, and our big life lessons as we share it all. The good, the bad, and the funny. Welcome to Lead Like a Girl. Welcome to another episode of Lead Like a Girl. So I'm really excited to talk about the pie theory today. And I'm not talking about apple pie, the pie theory.
Oh man, I like apple pie.
I know,
Can
me
we talk
too. But
about
don't
pie
worry,
after?
Thanksgiving is coming really soon. We're all going to be able to get apple pie. But listen, if you have not checked us out on YouTube, please check us out on YouTube. Lead Like a Girl Lab on YouTube. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. And we are relaunching our website. So that is coming soon as well. Leadlikeagirllab.com. All right. So I want to get into this pie theory that I'm really excited to talk about because I talk about this theory a lot in a lot of mentoring conversations that I have. And when I go and speak to different groups about their careers and networking and how to grow and develop your career in corporate America and all that good stuff. So, where I learned about this theory is I had the opportunity to moderate a talk with the head of HR for Mercedes Benz here in the Atlanta area. And there was a gentleman, Lars Menz is his name, and he shared this theory with me because I was kind of giving him my story about, I come from, not a corporate environment and just trying to navigate my way around a big corporate environment. And he said, what you can do is really get familiar with a theory called PI. And the P is for performance, the I is for image, and the E is for exposure. And he said, the more you buy into this theory, I think the better off you be in order to navigate your way around corporate America. So I want to just get your thoughts. You ladies, you've done some little research on this. And what was your first thought when you started kind of reading about the pie theory? Just your first reaction.
I'm going to say I was so surprised that the performance aspect of it was such a low percentage because I think we've all sort of been trained into thinking, put my head down, work hard. Someone will notice my hard work, someone will see it, and then I'll get promoted or I'll become a success or whatever. But I think there's so much, I would just say my emphasis has always been on be perfect at your job, be really great, perform well, and then you'll get the recognition. But, and again, I just researched it today actually, because I know you have them many times, but I was really shocked at that being the lowest percentage.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say too, I'm not super familiar with it, but I definitely think that this whole concept is right in alignment with what we've been talking about for a long time. That you have to be intentional about where you put yourself, or you're just going to stay really stagnant. Because what we did, it was a couple weeks ago, but nobody can try harder for yourself than you. Like, somebody can't do it for you. And I feel like offers a really great framework on how you can be an advocate for yourself and which ones are the most important things, or where are the most important areas to focus on for yourself, if you want to be moving into different career spaces or moving up in notoriety or wherever you're at in your office. So I think this is going to be a great episode to talk about. So notepads out, friends.
Yes,
Take some notes.
absolutely. Take
This
some
is going to be a
notes.
good one.
because I really want to hear feedback when you implement some of the things that we're talking about. But going back to what really surprised me, and that is not that I did not know that image and exposure mattered, but I was under the impression that your performance is what created the image and the exposure, right? And I humbly say this, I think the
Mm,
three of us kind of created a brand in the DB world where we were known for something, right? And our brand and our image and the exposure and all of that was based on we busted our asses and became the best in what we did. And that's how we got it. And this is a different world because what we're talking about here is a percentage and a breakdown of your success only being 10% of this is based upon your performance. And that is crazy. So this pie theory was developed by Harvey Coleman in the 1990s. Now, there's a lot of, you know, things out there about performance and, specifically image and exposure, but this particular theory really put it in perspective for you. So when you ladies think about performance, image, and exposure, where would you say your strongest areas would be and why?
I think that my strongest area is my performance. I feel like because that's all I've ever known, and I think that I try really hard to do a good job, to get the things done correctly, effectively, efficiently. And so the degree to which I have focused on my image and my exposure historically has been definitely a smaller emphasis than just working really hard. And to Jamie's point, you just feel like the other two will handle itself if you do a good job at what you do, which I'm very fastly learning through your education, Jessica, is not exactly true.
I was
And
gonna say the same thing. I was like
yeah,
thinking, okay, Corlin is such a performance. Like you are. Yeah, I've known you for a long time. You do exactly all the right things all the time, and you work very, very hard.
Can
And
you say
like,
that one more time? I don't think that's actually
yeah,
true.
girl, you
I need
do
to hear
all the
that one more
right
time.
things all the time. Yeah, I think. Yeah, no, I already and just to back up, the first person who talks loses. I'm
Wah,
kidding.
wah.
right.
So, but no, I see that with you because you are the ultra focused on making sure that the job, your performance is there and you're stellar with that.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking a little more along the lines of what position you're in. I've had positions in the past where I was a huge part of the community. And so in that, I definitely paid a lot more attention to how I portrayed myself in terms of my image, but also that exposure where I felt success because I could walk down Main Street of this town that I lived in and I would know every single business owner who owned every single business and they knew me by name and they would have absolutely stood up for me and advocated for me. However, I'm not in that position now. I'm in a different position where it's I'm not part of the community, so it's like starting over to try to cultivate that. So um I think I would call I would say I'm a work in progress in all three areas right now in
Well,
life.
it's funny
I
because
think too, Jessica, do you think you could speak a little bit? Like, do you think that this concept is more so, hey, I've made a decision that I want to go upward and onward at my current role. So does this only apply to if you're trying to climb up that corporate ladder, or where do you use this or how do you use these principles best? Like in terms of goal setting, or what's the goal?
yeah, so I think it doesn't matter the setting. I think whether it is in your community, whether it is your personal life, your professional life, a big company, a small company, I think if we really think about this, and when I heard about this, I went on a journey to really almost like just interview people and dive into like making case studies. And I have of notebooks of where I would meet and network with successful people in and outside of the corporate environment. And it was clear to me that this was true. And I think if we think about this outside of this bubble that we lived in the DB world, but in the real world, how many people have you talked to, or how many times have you been in a situation where you're like, why do I feel like I'm not growing or developing? I'm stuck. Like everybody else is getting the promotion or the job that they want or whatever. And you just know that they're not as good as you in whatever it is that you do. There's a reason for that. And I really think unless somebody shares what I call the playbook with you, how the heck are we supposed to know? Here we are thinking that we need to
Mm-hmm.
just perform and be the best at what we do, and we're going to get promoted or we're going to grow or whatever it is that we're trying to do. And I think that's where we're going wrong. Now, good news for us is that we only know how to perform. We can't undo how we have already been programmed. I usually say. But I want to go back for a minute because Will and I were talking about this the other night. And it's funny because I was like, when you think of me and Corlin and Jamie, if you had to put a letter on us when it comes to this theory, who would get what letter? And I thought it was interesting. And this is you're seen from the outside, right? And I agreed. I put the P on Jamie. I'm like, Jamie is a performer and that is just what she does. And I would bet you that. And it's funny that you put the P on yourself, Corlin, because I think yours is totally I. I think yours is image all over. And you may not even realize that naturally you do that and you care about that and you work on that. And you may think it's been heavily weighted on your performance, but it's not, because this theory says that 10% is your performance and 30% of your success is on the image. 30%. That's crazy.
Which leaves what?
So
60%
60
in exposure? Is that the math for
60%
the
for the people that rode the small school bus? Yes. It is. Yes, that is the math. Now, how crazy is that? Unbelievable? Like, do you guys believe it?
I'm learning right along with our listeners right now.
Okay, so now that we have this down, so 10%, okay? And again, I want someone to put this to the test. I want you to put it to the test and come back and report. It's going to take a while, but 10%, only 10% is on your performance. So as you're busy trying to be the best at what you do and perform, especially in a sales org, okay? And please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying you could be like a lazy ass and not do anything and suck at your job. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
is that only 10% of your true success is based on your performance. When you look around you and you see all these people that are at the top of the ladder, or all these people that are doing well and getting these other jobs, and you're like, and when they were a seller, they sucked. Yeah, they got the playbook. They knew that 10% was riding on their performance and 30% was on their image. And then what did we say?
So talk to me about how do you define image? What does that actually mean?
Okay, because easy, we know what performance means, right? So I'm gonna ask you guys first. I'm gonna give it back to you, Corlin, and then I'll either
Hey,
agree
I'm the
or
one
disagree.
asking the questions here.
But when you think of image, we were on image, right? When you think of image, what do you think of? Either one of you. When you think of image in this context, what do you think of?
I think that the way that I understood it is how you perceive yourself to some degree, but then how you think others perceive you, which is sometimes the same and sometimes it's different. And I think it goes to what we talked about in previous episodes, like what you wear, how you speak, how you hold
I love it.
space in a room.
Yep.
I think it has to do with all of that. It's your full package of how you are overall looked at and how you see yourself.
Okay. So the only part
What I
of that
miss.
that I would disagree on is it's actually not how you see yourself. It's how
Okay.
others see you. It's how others perceive you. Because as we know, that could be very different, right? So your image and what we're
Yeah.
naming image is purely how others perceive you. Okay. So, but like you said, what does that have to do with? It's how you dress, how you present yourself when you walk into a room, how all of those things, social media, right? So, how you're viewed in social media. How are you showing up in your Facebook post or, on LinkedIn and all of those things? So, all of that is image, right? And then I want to go to exposure, and then we'll kind of talk about what people can do in these areas to work on that. Like, what's their plan of action? So, we talked about what percentage is what, right? In the theory. Now, let's talk about exposure. When you think of exposure, what do you guys think about?
Well, it's clearly who who's in your corner, who's advocating for you, where you're putting yourself. Are you getting yourself out there? I think it's even internally in your offices, like with your role, Jessica, but I also think just blanket networking. Are you at the office and then you go home? Are you doing business after hours types of things? Are you volunteering? Are you on any boards? It's where are you doing extracurricularly? Is that a word? It's what you're
It
doing
sounds good to
outside
me.
of work where you're putting yourself out there, right? I feel like it's the extra. It's the stuff that you do outside of your job. And maybe it's committees at work. Maybe it's taking like a lead on a project. It's where you can go above and beyond outside of this is my little job.
Okay. So I think you took it a step further. How do you get exposure, right? How, where are you allowing people to experience? That's how I
Mhm.
look at exposure. How are people experiencing you? So these are things I don't know about you guys, but I never thought about this shit. Like, I thought you just go to work and be the best at what you do. Like, I don't know. Am I the only one that,
And just
like, I
like
never thought about this stuff? Like, I'm being paid to do a job. I just want to do my job and I want to be the best at doing my job. And guess what? You'll get left behind. Maybe
I
someone
think
out
of the
there.
three of us, though, I know that you put a performance on Jamie, but I also think Jamie has an exceptional amount of experience with exposure and doing that well. Jamie, you've done outside sales for so long, and it's cold calling at the simplest terms, but it's networking and it's relationship building. Do you feel like you've had a lot of exposure in that space?
I think in the realm of my position, yes, because it's a huge proponent of this is cultivating relationships. So, yes, it might be your colleagues, but it might also be your community. It might also be your teammates. One of the things I like about the position I'm in now is they really promote not only developing a relationship with your colleagues, but there's an aspect of my job where I have to kind of like figure out what's the word on the street. So I have to greenfield. So I have to find new contacts and I have to cultivate relationships while cold calling them. And I thought about this in a way of we've talked about mentors, we've talked about door openers and advocates. And I think it's important with this exposure topic to not only find somebody who's interested in you and interested in your success, but someone who does have some influence on your success. So you can
Absolutely.
probably find a dozen cheerleaders, but what you really want to find is a half a dozen coaches.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
Mm.
Yeah. No, that's really good. I think that people know how to perform. That's an easy one, right? You know what you have to do to, let's just say, to do a good job. And as far as image, I think, Corlin, you weighed in on that a little bit, but I think it's really just being intentional and saying, okay, how can I really look out for my image? And I think it's really, first of all, in this whole theory, it's like anything else. You need to do a temperature check on where are you today? Where are you today in your performance? Where are you today in your image? Where are you today in terms of exposure? And what you might find is maybe I don't even have an image. I haven't been working on that at all, meaning I don't have a brand, which branding is a whole nother episode. So I'll just keep it to, what am I doing to work on my image? And that is, even though you're a professional and you may think you're Facebook, I don't know about you guys, but I got a lot of people on my Facebook that are friends with me that are also coworkers, right? And so you guys know my image is being real. So you're going to hear me say certain things that some people might not agree with. You might see me, like drop it like it's hot on Facebook. I'm going to do it because that's who I am, and that's okay with me. If it's something that I am embarrassed for a CFO to actually see or hear me, I'm not going to hide it from social media. I'm probably just not going to do it, right? Like at all. So that's me. If it's something I'm in, then you probably just shouldn't be doing it at all. How about that? Not that you shouldn't be putting it on Facebook. So
Probably a
that's
good life lesson. You just never know when everyone's watching, so just make good decisions, right? Is that
there you go. Because chances are everyone's
for our
always
younger
watching.
listeners? Maybe
Everyone's
some of our
always
olders.
listening. Yes. But exposure, I want to tap into a little more in terms of what can we do? So, what can you do to get exposure? And I like where Jamie was going because she was talking about, mentors and these people that are advocates, because those are the people that are going to bring the opportunities that are going to bring you exposure. Right. And so sometimes you want to raise your hand to do things, one, because you want to help, but also know that sometimes you sign up for a project, maybe you're not getting paid for it, but you're getting paid in exposure. I had someone kind of break down that piece to me as well, where I collaborated with someone on something. I spent a lot of time doing it. And I'm like, well, what's in it for me? The exposure and being able to let someone experience me in an environment that is not my everyday environment that I would not have otherwise had. And next thing you know, I get a call saying, hey, there's this job opportunity. And I really loved working with you when you raised your hand on this, that, and the other. So exposure is important that you get that, because that could be the door opener for your next opportunity.
Well, that
Mm-hmm.
was one of the things that was brought up. I listened to a podcast today about this subject, and it was an author who, and it was eye-opening because she basically said, if you see opportunities present themselves at your job or in your life, and you think to yourself, I would have been perfect for that, but it didn't go to you, or you didn't get the chance to earn that. She said, if you sit there and think to yourself, like, that's perfect for me. That's your clue that you're not exposing yourself enough to the right people, and you're not cultivating those relationships to be able to be the first one that they thought of. So when those opportunities come up where you think I would be perfect for that, I know I could do it, I know I would be great at that. If
Yes.
no one's offering that to you, that's a clue to yourself. That's the push. You know what I
Yes.
need to do? I need to make sure that I'm in front of the people who are going to advocate for me and suggest me.
Yeah. I think too that scenario takes, I mean, it takes boldness and it takes a lot of courage. I feel like sometimes, because if you don't do that naturally, you have to be intentional and you have to put yourself out there. And sometimes that's really uncomfortable if that's not your normal walk. Yeah. Yeah. I would say this is a little bit off the tail, but it does talk about how to gain exposure. One of my goals for this year in my own personal career, one of the things that I I do is I focus on our corporate outreach and engagement. And I was talking with the CEO of our company, and we're just talking about, well, how can we're doing a good job internally, but is there opportunities to bring this out, what we do outside of our company? And so beginning of the year, I'm just thinking, how do I do this? And so I just got on the computer and I started researching networking groups that talk about purpose, outreach, networking, things like that, going to different business after hours where there's going to be nonprofit and business owners there. And the interesting thing is that I found myself into this networking group, and I went there the first time. They had a speaker talking about basically what I do as a career. And I just thought, this is really interesting. So I went up and I introduced myself to the gentleman that was putting on this whole networking group. There's 100 people in the room. We had a little bit of a conversation, dropped that this is what I do professionally. Well, so then a day or two later, I follow up with him with an email with a talk that I did, and sent it to him. And I said, hey, I don't know if this is something you're interested in, but give this talk a watch. And there might be an opportunity for me to speak at this networking group at some time in the future. Well, so this led to a business coffee to talk about that. I ended up within 2 months, ended up being the speaker at their event. And so I think that some of those things along the way totally were right place, right time, but you have to put yourself out there and not be afraid to make the introduction, be an advocate for yourself, and ask for what you want.
And to add into your point a little bit, in terms of networking groups, for example, I've had some similar experiences to that you know, I was in several in the past, and there are different volunteer opportunities. There are different projects that the group would do where if you're doing something that has nothing to do with your business, but you're working alongside people that you want to get business from, there's a camaraderie there. And it's a really great way to, again, build the relationship and get people to advocate for you, as well as get that exposure of, you know, who always shows up for this? Jamie. You know, who always shows up for this? Coralyn, Jessica. They're always there for these types of things. Then next thing you know, you get asked to judge the pie eating contest. Just to bring it back around to pie, which is a true story. But you know, I think the other thing,
Just as a side note, whose pie did you vote for?
yeah. Is a pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving? I have no idea. But I think that, not to get off topic, but I think in general, you know, things like groups like that, a lot of times they're also asking, they want you to participate. They want you to lead the group. They want you to be the president of the, you know, whatever networking group it is. And so when you say yes to that, that's even better. It's an easy way for you to gain that exposure with your colleagues and people who you know, are leaders in your community or maybe your industry, where you can use that to your advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Pie. Yep. I don't know about you guys, but I have a takeaway. I think I've laxed a little bit myself in trying to promote my image and my exposure. So thanks for bringing up this topic, Jessica. I've learned a lot today on this.
Yeah, and I think that the realization that the work that you do is such a small part when your goal is to move up, do better, have a different career or a different role within your company, that your performance it's just such a small part of all the other things that you need to do to be able to check your image, check who's actually seeing those things, because if nobody is seeing what you're doing, you're not going to be going anywhere, right? It's great. All right, well, we are at time, ladies. This has been a great conversation. I can't wait to hear feedback from our listeners, how they have been pieing it up. I think that this will continue to be a conversation, and I'm sure we'll be reflecting back on this different episodes. But remember, we are at leadlikeagirllab.com. Please subscribe to our YouTube and share us on social media. We're looking at growing our followers, and check out our merchandise. We have got a fantastic website and it's only getting better. With that, Jamie, Jessica, we need to continue leading like a girl until next week. This is us signing out.